goodness, here we go again. Another episode of Chicago Hill. I'm LaShawn Ford coming from the west side of Chicago.
I'm Meleika coming from the north side, Evanston.
You Evans. Oh, boy.
Everything's sunny in Evanston.
Right.
So Mark Peysakhovich coming from Oak Park, so to the west of the West Sider.
That's right.
But you know, the West Sides come to Oak Park, so we're all good. We're all one people.
You know, Mark, I got to tell you, we do come to the West Side, and recently, a young man, a 13-year-old, unarmed, came to the Oak Park, and I think he carjacked someone.
No,
that's not the way it went.
No, if he had carjacked someone, maybe things should have been different. But this was a 13-year-old kid who was riding in a car that had been used, that was stolen, that had been used in a carjacking the day before. Good.
Get the record straight. Because
right. And sorry, so he was just a little kid riding along. God knows how he got into that car. I mean, it's not like, you know, a 13-year-old's got the faculty of adult making decisions. So this kid's in the car stops, he runs out, apparently with his hands up, and is just like running away with his hands up, and gets shot in the back by a cop.
Yeah, it was a Chicago police officer, and I understand that he resigned from his post after the incident. But I'm very happy that you set the record straight, because all news reports, Meleika, has said that the young man carjacked the lady with the baby in the car. The lady had a fractured parts of her body, and she's in bad shape right now. And now right here on Chicago Hill, the record has been set straight.
You know, when I first heard that story, I was like, how do we know the 13-year-old wasn't pulled into this situation, or wasn't a victim in, well, clearly he was a victim in the end, but a victim in the whole car theft, carjacking situation. And more than likely the driver told him to get out and run. And he knew to put his hands up to let them know, he didn't have anything. And the tragedy is that they killed him regardless. So
he didn't die.
I don't know.
He didn't die.
Oh, okay. He didn't die.
And there's some other reports, Meleika, that
he died.
So once again, Mark, I don't know if you read anything recently, but I know that he was in critical condition from the last reports. So he didn't die at the scene, and he didn't die at the hospital immediately after. I don't know his condition now. In fact, I think I might go see him if he's still alive.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And they were also talking about how the police they violated because they moved the body. And so they're saying that they did something wrong by moving the body,
I thought they were trying to give him CPR or whatever.
That's what I said.
If you shoot somebody, I don't know. You know what I know is that the dude who killed 10 people in Buffalo is still alive.
Yeah, he put his hands up too, right? And he
didn't put his hands up. He was wearing tactical bulletproof gear and holding a gun.
Well, wait a minute. Hold on. When the police pulled over to arrest him, he was still holding the gun?
When the police went into the store, he was still holding his AR-15. And what he did was he put it to his neck, like he was going to kill himself. Mm-hmm. At that point, I would have been like, do it. Instead, these fine men in blue in Buffalo talked the guy down into giving up without a shot being fired.
Okay.
While this black baby was shot in the back, running away from a car that he probably had nothing to do with stealing or whatever in the first place.
So Meleika,
right. Yes.
Let's use this right now. And just use it as a teachable moment. It really is a teachable moment. And I think that if you are in law enforcement, if you are interested in changing our society, we should ask ourselves right now, why? Why does a 13-year-old Black youth get shot down that's unarmed and that didn't kill anyone, he didn't carjack anyone, he was just Black. And obviously Mark has said that he was in a car that was used. But then you got someone that killed how many Black people, a white person that killed? We got to ask ourselves, why? And we should really let incidents like this make us better as a society. How can we do that?
It doesn't seem to be making us better as a society. These stories just keep happening over and over where we compare, and it just never makes sense. And I'm starting to notice more and more that they're calling the violence in Chicago mass shooters, mass shootings. And I don't know. I just see a difference between Peyton Gendron and the gun violence in Chicago. It's, to me,
Totally
there's a difference to
Yeah.
it. So I don't like that they're starting to call them mass shooters like it's the same thing.
Maybe if they call them mass shooters, they'll be paying more attention to, you know what I mean? Like if it's just some Black guy getting shot, doesn't seem to be a priority for anybody. So at least if it's a mass shooting event, maybe they'll get, so
Yeah, to get some attention.
if you call it a worse thing, maybe you'll do more about it.
Right. But my
Well-
question is, Meleika and Mark, how can we make this better in our conscience to realize that when, and I said this before with us on, that when the police sees me as a Black man in my skin and they see you, they see us different. Why? And we need to make sure that the conscience of people that have the power to take a person's life understand that they're looking at a human, period. I mean, it has to be a teachable moment. We have to take a pause and make sure that people realize the difference that we see. I think we just go day by day and it just passes us by. The Rodney Kings, the Tamar Brown that was shot, the baby, that's one that really bothers me. You remember he was at the park and he had a toy gun, the police came.
Tamir Rice?
Yes, and he came immediately and they shot him within seconds. I mean, we have to use these and pull on the conscience of people.
Do they do assimilations in police training just to maybe get some psychological, like that's part of the psychological testing? So have a Black kid running down the street and then a white person running down the street. Does the police assimilate what he's going to do? Is that like part of the training? As part of the psychological
I'm sure,
tests?
well, I don't know if it's a part of a psychological, I don't know if they test you on your, willingness to shoot somebody Black more than somebody white. I don't know that that's a test. I do know that they do all sorts of simulations, but you know what? Here's the point. Which part of, if their back to you is to you, don't shoot them. If they're no threat to you, don't shoot them. Which part of that don't you understand? Like what needs to be reinforced? I understand you're in the moment. I appreciate that you're putting your life on the line in a not so glamorous job to protect the rest of us. And I believe in a previous episode, we've talked about good cops that have come to our assistance when we've needed it. And we're all grateful for that. And in general, my first instinct, even now when I see a cop, is to respect them and appreciate them. Because I'm not going to assume they're one of the smaller amount of dirty cops that are bad. But look, what is the true amount of bad apples if just a regular 13-year-old kid gets shot in the back running away from a car?
Yeah. I mean, what is that? ask that question. So is that a question? Because I want to answer it.
Please do.
I think that it's a small amount. Look, I'm going to tell you what I think about law enforcement. I think we need them. And if we're not going to support law enforcement to be better, then we should just get rid of them. And we should have a lawless society. We have to coexist. So one, as a legislative, I've supported the police. I protected their pensions. I protected their resources, and I've voted and advocated to make sure that they get body cams, make sure that they get mental and behavioral health support. You name it, whatever police need, they get from me as a legislator in that support. So now all I say is they have to realize that they have to advocate for themselves as well. And they have to realize that they have a family, like the killer of Laquan McDonald. He needs to realize that going into the job every day, he needs to be in his full capacity in his mind so that he could go home to his children and his wife. You cannot go to work knowing that you have possible a tendency to put your life at risk and others. Get the help you need, because your family is going to suffer. The killer of Laquan McDonald's family suffers just like Laquan McDonald's family. So police officers have the responsibility to advocate for the best conditions for themselves so that they can serve and protect. And I'll just say this, the teachers union does a fantastic job advocating for teachers. And many people say, well, they advocate for teachers, but the students are not at their front of mind. Well, regardless, if teachers are treated better, classrooms are going to be better. We need the teachers union model to transition to the police union, because they would then advocate for better work conditions, better treatment of the police force, like body cams, mental and behavioral health, days off for support for their mental health assessment and support. So I think that the police union, they do a disservice sometimes to their members.
I think the police union is, I mean, look, you know what, I was delighted to see that this, and, you know, I don't expect you to agree with my views. I was not a big fan of the current union president who's gonna, you know, who was voted out, who's not getting another term. But you know, I guess the union model makes some sense, right? Because it's the adversarial system. If somebody's going to accuse you of something, then and you're a professional or a member of that union, then that union stands behind you and tries to protect you when you're being accused. I can appreciate that, but I don't understand how you can sort of try to protect somebody who clearly did something wrong. Okay. So that part of the union bothers me, but here's the thing. You're right. The teachers union advocates for better teaching conditions. They advocate for, among other things, smaller classroom sizes and other things that are going to be pro-student, not just pro-teacher, but pro-student. I don't know of anything that the police union advocates for, except to, you know, to nurture this sense of grievance and chip on the shoulder of cops. You know, like they're just reminding them, oh, you know, everybody hates you, everybody's against you. So this union, I think, is responsible for some of what ends up being the mindset of cops. I think the union would tell you these cops, you know, have that already, but I think sometimes the union is the entity that plants a seed in their head.
They condone it. Yeah, exactly. I would say that if I know that I'm going to be that there's going to be a defense fund put up for me, even if I am wrong even if it's clear that I killed Laquan McDonald, I'm going to have a defense. They're going to give me a job, and they're going to make me out of a hero. That is a problem with that union. That sort of perpetuates the behavior. And so if they know that they don't have that type of support, then it will change their mind. If the union was more, if the police union was more like the teachers union, where they just fought for the conditions of the police work conditions, then that's better. You know, so.
The police officer that shot the 13-year-old, white, black, Latino.
I don't know what he was, or I know it was a male.
You know, I gotta say, I don't even know that it matters anymore. I think that the blue matters more than the black or brown might.
Well, I would say that one, the blue matters, but we have to look at it as it is. If the person that killed or that shot the 13-year-old was white, we have to make sure that we recognize it and keep that as a record. We do need to know, because we need the biases to be dealt with. And the only way to deal with it is to recognize what it is. I agree. It was a police officer in the blue. But do we need to work with our police officers so that we can get the biases dealt with?
I guess so, but can't we just work with them to make sure they don't shoot people in the back?
You're right, but guess what?
It comes down to their heart. It comes down to if they got hate in their heart, it doesn't matter if the person is already on the ground.
Yeah, but I think that your life's upbringing is going to talk about the training that you need. Everybody needs different training. And so we can find evidence to say that there's nothing. I say that it's not that white people are bad because they have these biases. The system is bad because they allow the biases to continue, and we're not doing anything to help them. That's what a problem is. Leadership in the city of Chicago and in the state of Illinois need to understand that there are biases that must be dealt with. And if we don't deal with them, we're hurting ourselves. It's called cutting your nose off to spite your face. What's wrong with dealing with the biases? Mark, the DeSantis over in Florida had the nerve to say we should eliminate social justice. Now, that's what I'm saying. What is wrong with? Now, he's a Catholic. I'm a Catholic, and the Catholic faith. Now, Mark, now you could get us as a Jewish brother. Now, this guy, the Catholic faith is all about social justice. And we got a politician that's saying eliminate social justice. Mark, you Jewish. Do you believe in social justice?
Well, so here's my point. Jesus is social justice.
Speak, brother.
Okay? Well, look, I mean, I have something in common with Jesus. We're both Jews. So
wait, Jesus black? Is he a black Jew?
Hey, he wouldn't be the only one. He wouldn't be the only one. But you know what? I'm down with black Jesus. I'm down with black Santa as long as he brings me presents. What do I care?
That's right.
So my yes, but you have a certain type when you talk to some people, and this isn't only the cops or whatever. There are also some very religious people. They're willing to be all churchy when we talk about Jesus condemning this behavior or that behavior. But when it talks about Jesus turning over the money changers tables and washing poor people's and lepers and prostitutes' feet, all of a sudden that part doesn't apply to them because that's politics.
Yeah,
Jesus is politics. Jesus is social justice. Guess what? That's why he was crucified.
that's right. And that's why I bring it up. There's a reason why I brought in the social justice part, because we cannot elect people that fail to understand that there are biases that we have to deal with, and that's willing to fight to make sure that we educate people the right way to help them eliminate their biases, and elect people that believe that social justice is a model that we should use to make life better for all of us. How can we have a politician that serves the people, and everything that we do as a politician is about making life better for people? Social justice is about making life better for people in the most non-controversial way. It's so non-controversial that when I first got to Springfield, one of the first pieces of legislation that I passed was that we should actually legislate with social justice at the front end, and that everything that we do in this body should be led by social justice. That's why that really ticked me off a little bit. And guess what? My supporters, the chief co-sponsors, the first 5 were Republicans. So even Republicans believe that social justice is something that should be a guiding principle for us when we try to take care of those that are that we are elected by.
Do you think, let me know, because you're in the mix of everything. Do you think it goes into somewhat of a danger zone when you have people who think like you, who want to lead with social justice, because it's about the people who, the Jesus-esque, way of thinking and operating. But then you have those who are very much against that. And so when you start talking about law enforcement, you're talking about some dangerous people within the police department. So the reason it goes on and on and on, and it never ends, and it seems to be getting worse, is it because you have forces within who will do whatever it takes to stop that social justice Jesus mentality? They crucified Jesus. And usually, you've had people who have been scared away from the political world because they want to do what's right. But you got that dangerous element. And it does exist in the Chicago Police Department and all police departments around the country. They will do whatever it takes to stop you from busting up their apple cart, the operation that they got going on.
There you go, right there. You nailed it. So that's where people worry about social justice, because social justice will say that those that are struggling, we have to do more for. And people that are against social justice feels that it's just a redistribution of wealth. And we don't want that. We like it the way it is. Oh, we see homeless population. We see people struggling with drug addiction. We see people that are working 3 jobs, trying to make ends meet, while their kids are out running the streets without any guidance, but the mother is trying to do everything that she can to make sure that there's food on the table. But there are people right now in society that will demonize the mother that's single, the father in the house, and even with 2 incomes, they have to work and they still live in poverty. And yet in society, we continue to demonize them because they're not home with their children. Well,
So you got, a Black single mother who works 3 jobs trying to keep food on the table, who's demonized because her kid, slipped out the window, hooked up with friends and went downtown, which, those of us, without sin like that, cast the first stone. I did that. But then you have parents, white, suburban, upper middle class parents whose kid goes and murders Black people, and has had mental health issues previously, still went out and had the money to buy an AR-15 and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I still haven't I haven't heard anybody talk about, well, where were his parents?
oh
What
my
were they?
God, right.
I've heard somebody say, oh, it doesn't seem like they knew it was happening. They're devastated. They're devastated, just like the rest of us. Well, not just like the rest of us. But again, that's the point. Your kid's building an arsenal and planning a war in his bedroom upstairs. And you don't know that. But you're supposed to know when your kid slips out and hooks up with friends and does something stupid, which every kid in America has done.
Right.
It just this is what really bothers me. And that's what, that sort of really has, I don't know, contributed to my wokeness, shall we say. And by the way, I still use that word favorably. I don't care how other people might use it. I think there's something, good about being woken up or being awake and seeing things the way they really are, rather than the way they are in your dreams while you're asleep. But, it's just this fundamental lack of fairness. That's what really gets me. And I don't think most white people understand what it's like to wake up every morning and expect that life is going to be unfair.
They don't. And that's why I'm happy to have these conversations. Here's the part that I also want to bring up with the kids. It's really Black kids. As I said before, I'm 50 years old. And when I see those Black kids in Chicago, see the Black kids across the country in trouble, that's what I see. I see that they are in trouble and they need some help. And I think that we have to, by any means necessary, help them with everything that they need. If it's discipline, but it has to be in love, and it has to be redirection to put them on the right track, because kids are at a point where they're not old dogs. We could teach them new tricks. And I tell you, here's the thing that parents that have the luxury of being in the middle class have, and here it is. They could sort of con their kids into doing right. Now I'm gonna use that word con, because guess what? If you don't do your homework, I'm gonna take away your car. I'm gonna take away your phone. I'm not gonna give you your allowance. So now these are the advantages that you have when you have resources. Now let's switch to the parent in poverty trying to discipline their children. They can't take away the car. They can't take away their cell phone. They can't take away this. They can't take away that. And believe it or not, I don't care what anybody say, part of parenting is teaching, but also taking away things from them so that you could try to get their attention. And so when you have parents that struggle, it's even more difficult for them to parent, because Meleika, what you gonna take away? And it sounds
there's no
crazy. I
leverage.
don't know if I'm making a point, but there is something to being able to parent by threat.
It's part of the toolkit.
Yes.
It's part of the, you're better off rewarding good behavior than punishing bad behavior, but all things are on the table. All things are, and look, it's so complicated these days. It's like parents threaten to take the cell phone and then they think, well, crap, that's the only way I'm going to know if my kid's okay.
Oh, that happened. Look, Mark, let me tell y'all something. So Tia, my daughter Tia, I mean, by no means I would, and I'm only saying this, but we have taken her cell phone away because we wanted to make sure she got focused. She didn't do the best that she could have done on the test. It's like, okay, we're going to take your cell phone. And Lord knows it punished us because she's like, okay, now you can't call me to see where I'm at after school. Oh, Lord.
Kids today are smart. Yeah, you have to find something. There's always something that a kid wants or wants to do that's coming up. You just have to use that kind of leverage. And sentencing them to their room, that's like a vacation.
Well, here you go. Sentencing people to their room. You got poor people. Once again, these parents, these children don't have their room. They don't have their own room. They may sleep in the den, or they may sleep in the living room. They may be sleeping on the floor. People have to really take into consideration what conditions may be for people. And if we're serious about changing the trajectory of lives, we should be looking to help people and not condemn them. These parents are bad. They need to know where their kids are. We need to lock up those parents for not knowing their kids are. Let me give you guys this. Remember I told you guys something some time ago about a white teen that was rich? I found it. A wealthy teen defense for deadly drunken driving crash was influenza. He was too rich to know what he was doing.
Oh my gosh.
Too rich to know what he was doing. So there's an excuse for that. But I just wanted to make sure that we talk about that one day.
I don't have nothing. I don't even think I want that illness.
Oh, you know what?
I don't think I want that. But meanwhile, I had brought up some clips today.
All right.
Because what I thought was interesting, speaking of, you have your parents who just don't understand. How come you don't know where your kids are? How come you can't discipline your
You
kids?
sound like Will Smith. Parents just don't understand.
Meanwhile, we had tragedy again here in Chicago. It's got, it's I don't even want to say it's the norm, but every weekend we're getting a new report. And more the crimes are happening downtown Chicago. So you have more and more people waking up to like, oh, this is real. This is just isn't over there. It's now in my neighborhood. I'm coming out of my high rise to go get my coffee. And now I have blood-stained streets. And I thought it was very interesting. I'll play this clip of this blood stain on the sidewalk. And I think it got real. It got real for people because now they're coming out of their apartment and they're seeing blood stain. Yes, blood, this is real. There's been blood spilling for years. And now it's in your neighborhood.
You know what, Meleika? Every neighborhood is our neighborhood. And this is what we have to wake up to, as you said, have waken up. Whether it was in Austin, Inglewood, Roseland, you as a taxpayer, you're paying for it. You know what, Mark? Even Oak Parkers are paying for Chicago's violence.
Chicago's violence is Oak Park violence.
That's right.
Where the 13-year-old gets shot.
Right.
He was coming out of Oak Park.
Yeah.
And I mean, the pursuit started in Oak Park. It ended in Austin.
Yeah. And guess what? Every person that's incarcerated in Cook County jail or any county jail in our state prisons, I don't care where you live, you're paying as a taxpayer to incarcerate them.
can I just say something about this whole Oak Park and West Side thing? And again, it's sort of maybe just and it's not directly related to this, but it's so directly related to this in a way that, um, you know, I don't think, like, if you go to a grocery store or a bank in Oak Park, you're probably going to see more Black people than proportionally live in Oak Park. Why is that? It's because that's where the services are. If you don't have a bank where you could walk to, if you don't have a, clean, gleaming, large, beautiful grocery store, you go to those places where those things are. And just the fact that you have to go somewhere else to get the things that should be in every neighborhood bothers me to some, I mean, like, hell, if you're from Austin, welcome to Oak Park. Welcome to, you're paying Oak Park's retail taxes. You're helping me. I'm all, fine for that from that perspective. But think about, again, most people, and even most Black people, I think, that don't live in that kind of a situation, don't even necessarily think about it. God knows I never did, until I looked around and thought to myself, what's it like not to have a grocery store in your neighborhood? What does that say about you?
Right.
What do you learn as a kid when your parents need to go elsewhere to get some cash from a bank?
Hey, what does it say? I like the way you say Black. I love it. And you said very comfortably. It sounds crazy, but let me tell you, I know, Meleika, you got to play your clip and we want to get it. But actually, it's such a crazy thing that I'm about to say, but I like when you said Black. There's nothing wrong with you saying Black people. But I actually told a person in the legislature, it's okay to call me Black, a Black man. And she said, I'm not going to call you that. I'm not going to disrespect you. What? Literally, a white lady told me that she would not call me Black man because she didn't want to disrespect me. Now,
Call me Black all day.
Well, what's the alternative? A person of color, or what was she going to say to you?
I'm just telling you, that's how people see us. Right. What's the alternative, Mark? I have no idea, but my seatmate is white, Fran Hurley from the North Side. And I call her, I say, good morning, white lady. She says, good morning, Black man. And I got my friend Fred Crespo, who's a Puerto Rican. I say, what's up, Puerto Rican? And
yeah, I saw you say that to him on Facebook. We're wishing him a happy birthday the other day.
Yep.
And you know what? I don't think he called you and said, I don't want to be friends anymore.
Right. and my Italian brothers in the General Assembly, I say, what's up, my Italian brother? They love it. But there's something about the Black skin that people are uncomfortable with. And they literally told me, I'm not going to call you that. I'm not going to insult you. That's something. Meleika,
I wonder.
Your clip?
Yeah, but I think that's another show.
Yeah. That's how they see Black.
It's called an adjective, lady.
I like being called Black.
And I like her.
Day.
But I mean, as opposed to what?
Right.
It's statement of fact.
And
it's not like I'm calling you an a-hole.
Right. And look, I am not offended by it. I love the challenge of that. Because
it's not even that. If we can't say Black and white and Latino and whatever, how are we going to address the issues that are clearly exist, that are floating in the air?
Right. And I want them to call me Black man, because look, this is a Black man, that try to live up to as a good citizen. I may fall short sometime, blow a stop sign, but, but I do my best to be a good Christian and a good citizen. But nevertheless, look at me. Don't let Hollywood, don't let the 10 o'clock news define what a black man is. This is what a black man is.
But I mean,
All
look,
right.
you know, what's funny is, and I'll shut up after this, but we're supposed to understand that among cops, there's a few bad apples. And yet somehow that concept doesn't translate to communities.
Amen. And I say that all the time. We got bad
Yeah.
cops, bad teachers, bad politicians, bad doctors, bad nurses,
Bad
people.
black people,
Bad black
bad
people.
white people, bad
Yeah.
Latinos.
Yeah. So
It just somehow does not. I don't, you know, it's so simple. But look, that's one of the reasons why I'm on here have the honor of being on here with you guys, because I don't have that problem.
that's right.
And you can talk to me. Most white people will just sort of shut down and cut their risk, okay, of saying something wrong. And if you're always afraid of saying something wrong, then you're never going to say anything. Now,
that's right.
what don't ever be afraid of. White people, hear me out here, okay? I'm talking to the white people. Don't ever be afraid of being corrected, okay? Saying something wrong in and of itself is not a problem. What is a problem is not apologizing and acknowledging and learning from the experience. That's the problem. So if somebody does call you on something, don't get all defensive. I have a boss, you know, and I've mentioned this before, I think. My boss always used to, my first supervisor always said something that always stuck with me. Apologize, don't explain. Okay?
You said that before on
Right.
the show. So people, apologize, don't explain.
Yeah,
Apologize, don't explain.
learn. Don't explain. If you want to have the conversation continue, ask. Okay? Ask more questions. Ask the way you should have said it. Ask what, you know, what did you hear when I said that? What do you prefer? How should I have handled that? We don't have all the answers. None of us
Right.
do.
Right. I had Latinos tell me don't ever use the word Hispanic. I had no idea. And I did not try to explain. I apologize. I didn't know. And I did ask them to explain, well, what does it mean?
Because a lot of them use that word. Latino politicians use the word Hispanic.
They don't like it. They don't like it. They said a white man gave us that term. We don't call ourselves Hispanic. We did not come up with that term. That's what the white government gave us.
Well, it's no different
So-
than black people saying it.
Yeah.
I mean, black people say, don't call me African American, call me black, or call me Negro, but don't call me that. So, you know, Mark, you know, you white people have really put something in, you know, you guys have really did something. You know, I don't know what to say, but you know, you got black people not knowing what to be called, Latinos not knowing what to be called. What the heck? We need to do something.
But guess what? We no longer enjoy the privilege in this country to not have to know. We can't stay, but you know, you're no longer obligated to want to be called what I call you.
That's
And
hello. Yeah.
You know,
Meleika,
and I'm no longer and I'm now obligated to pay attention to that. It's been like that for about 100 years now, people. Let's get with the program.
We all have to pay attention now to what any and everybody wants to be called. So pretty much is by the individual. So now you have, don't call me a man, don't call me a woman, don't call me gay, don't call me black, don't call me Hispanic. I mean, so you pretty much got to ask a person, like people say now, well, what are your pronouns? You pretty much, well, what do you want to be referred as? Just give them the respect right up front.
Yeah,
pretty much.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
exactly
we
right.
should do
Well, what about if we just be human, the human race? Mark, how you doing?
See, I don't know. Yeah, see, I don't know about that. I'll tell you why, because I think that lets the humans that are responsible to everybody else off easier. Okay. it's hard to say some of those humans over there need
That's true.
restorations, okay?
Meleika agreed
Or
with that.
reparations.
Right. So now we cannot deal with the realness of each one's identity. America is a melting pot of
Right.
all people. So no,
I
we
need
are
to
a human
know,
race.
I need to know that you're human,
Right.
but I need to understand that you're a human who is Black, and certain disadvantages have been built into the system for Black humans.
That's right. That's exactly how we're going to repair the damages. And that's what the critical race theory is all about. The critical race theory.
Oh no, stop, I can't hear that.
Critical race
I'm
theory.
white, that's killing me.
Yeah. What is going on in Evanston that you want to talk about before we conclude this episode of Chicago Hill?
Well, it's a lot going on here in Evanston, Illinois. We do have an absolutely beautiful community. If you want to raise a family, I mean, it's fabulous, but we do have our issues. You have people hanging nooses at a grade school that's like right up the street from me. That's where we go to vote. That's our voting poll is at this school, hanging nooses. Fights breaking out at school. And one incident, a teacher, she got shoved in the altercation. And, you had white parents showing up to the school board meeting saying, this is a school, not a detention center. Yeah. So in Evanston, we pride ourselves on being liberals and diverse and inclusive, but you have that really evil kind of racism here where it's hidden with a smile. And it's very, very hard to fight. It's very, very hard to fight. So then when you have nooses hanging from a grade school or at your favorite restaurant, one of my favorite restaurants here is Ovo Frito.
You know what? You know me. I was going to ask you. Give us the best restaurant.
Yeah, Ovo Frito, they get hate mail from white supremacists. I mean, but Evanston doesn't really tell you all of what's going on with things like that. And then we won't talk about reparations. The film coming out on Tribeca Film in June that's pretty much telling a complete and total lie about Evanston reparations. So Evanston, there's a joke around Evanston that we're the lie on the lake.
I was going to ask you
the lie on the lake.
You talking about the beach? You got the beach.
The
lay
beach.
Lay on the beach. Is that what you meant?
Deception in terms of lie.
And Oak Park and Evanston have a lot in common, and sort of a similar school composition as well, and some of the same issues. A school that is really, really known for academic excellence, except for a certain part of the population where there's this huge academic gap that doesn't get addressed year to year. So I know how you feel there in Evanston.
Yeah, it's sickening to the stomach, because what do you do about it? How do you clean out the bias and the evil? I mean, you can't. I'm starting to think it's impossible.
No, it's possible. I mean, you got to first recognize it, and you got to have people that want to be better. Black people some Black people will look at white people and say, oh, they're prejudiced just by the way they look. They're racist, and I had to tell you, I've seen.
I know I'm racist. I hate those white people, man.
I have seen some white people look at me and I say, oh my God. And then they speak. And I'm like, and then the way they talk, it's like, oh, I'm so glad they spoke, because they struck fear in me just by the look. I'm like, oh, shoot. But, we really, really, I don't have a problem with anyone and how they feel. The only problem that I have is people recognizing that there's something wrong with the way they feel. If you don't want to recognize it and you want to continue to sit in your doo-doo, then we got a problem. You know, come on. You got to know that the hate that you're feeling is not normal and that it's not healthy. You're sitting there stinking.
But it's
And-
like talking to a crazy person. Have you tried to like sit down and have a conversation with a person who is just not there, and you're
Well-
trying so hard? Like I do a lot of forums here in Evanston during the school board elections, the aldermanic elections, and I had a conversation with this one white woman who was running for a position, and we have been fighting for a school in the 5th Ward, which is a predominantly Black ward here in Evanston, because they unjustly took it out back in 1957. So they were busing all the kids to all these different areas so that the white schools can appear diverse, so that they could get more funding. So it had a very negative impact for years on the Black students here in Evanston. So the big question for people running for the school board, well, what are your thoughts on putting a new school back in the 5th Ward? And her thing was, you know, she had all these excuses for why it shouldn't happen, but a lot of people respect her in this community. And she's this very successful woman who works at, you know, a big establishment in Chicago, you know, but when you try to have a conversation with this woman, in her views and her thinking, she sees nothing wrong. There's something wrong with you, that you want justice for the Black community. She doesn't see it. So you have people like that that's like running this city, this community, and is sick.
Let me
It's
ask you,
sick.
let me ask you this, Meleika. Is it prejudice or ignorance? And even more importantly, is there a difference if the impact is the same?
Do I think it's prejudice
Or
if she's just, or ignorance? No, I think it's hate, and not wanting to admit the hate, because it makes them look bad. Well, I can't say that I'm a racist. I can't say that I hate Black people. I can't say that I don't allow my children to bring home their Black friends in Evanston to our home, inside our home. You can play with them on the playground, but you can't bring them inside the house. You can't say that. So it comes off, you know, she's blonde and beautiful and smiles, and, you know, and everyone just thinks, oh no, she's not full of hate. She's not a racist. She's sick.
Right, she's sick. That's what I wanted to be known. We don't want to associate that racism with crazy people. They're sick. Let me give you guys something to close on. Racism, the definition of racism: prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism toward or directed against a person or people on the basis of their membership in a particular race or ethnic group, typically one that is a minority or marginalized. So people, ask yourself if you're racist, if it's okay for you to be prejudiced and to direct your hate toward people based on their color. If you feel it, you got to get some healing. It's only going to help you. Are you racist? Have you accepted it? Have you said, this is the life that I will live forever?
I think you guys, the three of us, we should get like a Ghostbusters car and do like racism exorcisms.
Well, this has
Well,
been another.
Just travel around.
But
the-
aren't people benefiting from being racist?
Let's close on that. Are people benefiting from being racist? This has been another episode of Chicago Hill. I'm LaShawn Ford, straight from the West Side.
Meleika Gardner from Evanston.
They're not benefiting, but they think they are, which is why they're stupid. Don't be stupid, people. Mark Peysakhovich here in Oak Park.